All right, we are good to go. Hello, everyone. A very good evening. I welcome you all in our 38th meeting of NVezion Toastmasters Club. In Toastmasters, we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in great self-confidence and personal growth. And our club is a specialty club. We focus on entrepreneur and entrepreneurial stuff. Our essay is also in the meet. Anyway, I have started, so I will go ahead. Our club, we do something. We try and strive to do something other than what everyone is doing. To do that, we have some special structure of our club meetings. In first week, we do only speech marathon. All the speakers and evaluators gathered, and we have only speeches on that day, evaluations, speeches, and etc. In second week, we have keynote speeches. In the keynote speeches, we try to bring influencers, industry experts to address our audience here, and our members can get benefited from their experience and understand what is going on outside the world. And third week, we have workshop. So that day is dedicated for our Toastmaster of the day only. Toastmaster of the day comes and do whatever they want to do, like communication workshop, sales and marketing workshop, anything stuff that he is expert in that area, he can come or she can come, demonstrate, and we all learn from their experiences. In the fourth last week, we have presentation session. On that day, our members or guests can come with presentation, marketing ideas, and any business idea or PowerPoint presentation. All the workshops, presentation, it will be get evaluated by our audiences present on that meet. With this as essay, we will give you some guideline to adhere with. In Toastmaster, we avoid speaking any taboo subjects like religion, caste, sex, and politics. If there are something that can hurt the sentiments, we avoid refraining from talking about those things. And do not interject the speaker in between their speeches. Don't have conversation in chat box publicly while the speaker is speaking. Avoid any background noises if you are unmuted to carry on the session uninterruptedly. Know when your camera is on and avoid doing anything else during that time, as it becomes quite unprofessional. With this, I'm going to invite our hostess, Master of Ceremony, a budding Toastmaster, an educationist, anchor, emotional intelligence trainer, facilitator, and a feature writer. She pours her heart into all she does and wants to spread the importance of being emotionally literate and use the power of emotions to better lives. Any guess from our club who's that lady? Let us put your hands together and with a huge round of applause, let us welcome Toastmaster Smita Kotkar. Toastmaster Smita Kotkar, virtual stage is all yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Syed Faisal Zaidi. And believe me, whether people guess my name or not, I'm always there waving my hand and telling me, look at me, I'm here. So, always ready to speak up. Thank you so much for that warm introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, members in the audience, before I invite a lovely speaker here today to be with us on a very, very different kind of a topic, I'm reminded of a quote of Mahatma Gandhi, where I read somewhere that the greatness of humanity is not in being human, but in being humane. With that, I would like to speak about the person whom we are all here to listen to. a so special lady, somebody who's so forthcoming to speak to, somebody whom you absolutely connect with almost instantaneously. And after a short conversation of just 2, 3 sentences, I felt as if I have known her for ages. And then I had to stop myself from actually going and talking about a whole lot of other things that I wanted to speak to her about and concentrate on the topic of the day. That warm-hearted she is, and she immediately brings you at ease. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome somebody who served with the Indian Air Force for 10 years, an officer, a lady in uniform. She has been there, done that, what most ladies and many, many other people only aspire for. And after hanging her uniform, she decided to not just sit and just sip her morning tea. She decided to do something more for the community. Do you know? She does something most of us don't even know about. She speaks for the LGBTQ plus community, and in a very special way. Today, she is a queer sensitization catalyst. Now, that name or that term itself speaks so much about what she does. And that's so much more inquisitive it has made me about her and the kind of work that she actually brings in into the field. Today, she trains people on diversity, equity, inclusion, and she tells people about the community that we do not know about and how we can empathize with them. And she speaks about inclusion. Well, I would also like to tell you that she has earned multiple certifications from the universities of Colorado, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, and Stanford School of Medicine, and has impacted hundreds of lives. And I'm sure she must have done that. She's also written a book, Help, My Child's Queer. Now, this book is what I'm really going to order. And also a handbook for India Incorporation titled Fostering LGBTQ plus Inclusion at the Workplace. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands forward and warmly welcome with a warm round of applause Toastmaster, former squadron leader, Delshad Master.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much, Sweta. That was a wonderful introduction. Thank you.
And I recently came to know that she's a Toastmaster.
Yes, of 2 clubs nonetheless.
Of 2 clubs, not just one, 2 of them. So before I hand over the virtual stage to you, and before we actually get to hear on something very, very different, because truthfully, the subject queer is something that we do not know about. The average person does not know about.
Correct.
And ever since being an Indian and in this community, growing up, whenever we have even wanted to speak a little about it or hear or talk about it, I think we have been shunned and said, there are better things to do, and there is something more that you need to do, right? If you have come across a person on the street and we have expressed our inquisitiveness, it has not been satisfied. We have been told that this is not something that you want to know. So truthfully, we do not know. And in the bargain, we may have many a times hurt many a people. But in true honesty, we did not know how to react. We did not know what to do, how to address, right?
Correct.
So Toastmaster Dilshad, what is queer? And what is a queer sensitization catalyst?
Okay. So I'll take the first question first. Queer is an umbrella term. It is used to describe all persons that are not cisgendered and are not heterosexual. Now what that means is, so cisgender and the word heterosexual I'll be explaining a little later as we go forward. But I would say that people who don't fall within the box of male or female, right? And heterosexual is persons who are attracted to the opposite sex, that is heterosexuality. So the vast majority of us are cisgendered heterosexuals. So anybody who falls outside of the ambit of being cisgendered heterosexual is actually queer. Umbrella term encompassing different genders and different sexualities. So more about both when I come to my presentation, but yeah, largely that's what queer stands for. A little bit of trivia on the word queer. Earlier, the very first time it was used somewhere in the 1700s by royalty, and it was used in a very derogatory manner to look down upon people who were so-called weird, right? Because the word queer is actually, the dictionary meaning would be weird, something apart from the ordinary. So that word was used very derogatorily. But later, when the movement for recognition began in the US somewhere in the late 60s, actually around 1969, so the entire flower power generation, they began to revolt, and they said, you know, look at us, acknowledge us, and you know, love us for who we are. When that revolution began, they reclaimed the word queer and began to use it as a matter of pride. And that's how the word queer became a symbol of pride, became a symbol of solidarity, and became a symbol of uniting every gender and sexuality that did not conform to the so-called you know, gender normative standards that society boxes all of us in, you know. So yeah, that's for the word queer. Queer sensitization catalyst, as the three words themselves explain. So queer, I have already told you. Sensitization is basically speaking to others about the community, so that, just like you mentioned, Toastmaster Smita, most people are not even aware about it, or even if they have an iota of kindness or humaneness towards the community, they are shushed, they are shut up, or they are, you know, they are asked to keep quiet and not know about it. So my job is to get others to know about it, spread the awareness, spread the sensitization about the queer community. And the word catalyst, just like we've all studied in science, it stands for a particular element, a particular chemical that is added into you know, a chemical reaction just to accelerate, yeah, just to accelerate the process, which by itself does not undergo any change. So it does not impact its own chemical composition, but it accelerates the experiment. So similarly, catalyst is because I do not belong to the community, I am an ally, but I speak for the community and I advocate for the community, and that's how I coined my moniker, queer sensitization catalyst.
Okay,
So,
that's
yeah.
wonderful. So let me say then you're the first queer sensitization catalyst.
That's good.
You're the one who actually coined the term, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So from this thing that you have just spoken about, because when I read about you and when I was told to speak to you, so the first thing I looked up was queer, the word. And
Right.
yes, the first thing that I also came to know was that this is a word that used to be spoken, that used to be used to speak about in a derogatory manner. And I
Yes.
was wondering, why did you choose such a word? And then I came to that it was earlier, but now it's an umbrella. So my takeaways right now from the first portion would be acknowledgement,
Yes.
reclaim, pride, solidarity, and ally. Now I want to know, what is an ally? Am I an ally, or who is an ally?
Um, Ally, the dictionary meaning simply means friend. Anybody who's on your side is an ally. Again, trivia wise, if we go back to the world wars, the allies, you had the allied powers, and you had the axis powers, right?
Yes.
So allies are just people who are your friends, people who stand up for you, people who stand with you, and people who fight with you, right? So that's the simple meaning of the word ally. And applied to the queer community, it means You could either belong to the community or you may not necessarily belong to the community, but you are a very avid advocate, avid spokesperson for the community. You're pro LGBTQ. Now, having said that, it does not mean that to be an ally you have to have a certain qualification or you have to have a certain amount of knowledge. All that you require to be an ally is an open heart and an open mind. If you are open to the idea of people identifying with different gender identities, people having different sexualities, and you are perfectly fine with it, you're perfectly okay with it, you are an ally, your knowledge level does not matter. What matters is you have the willingness to learn, the willingness to accept, and the openness to embrace these differing genders and sexualities, right? Knowledge can always be gained. For knowledge, you always have Google, you always have books, you have so many other sources. Knowledge comes later. The acceptance, the openness is the first and the most crucial parameter to be an ally.
Very right, very right. May I ask you one thing? One need not be part of the community, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Is it, does one get easily accepted by the community if you have an open heart, like you just said?
Yes and no, because it depends. So the thing is, again, even when you are an ally, I have come across many people who are pseudo allies. Now, when I say pseudo allies, what I mean is people come forward and say, oh, I don't have any problems with the queer community. I don't have problems with a person being LGBT. However, the caveat that most people would add is, but not my child, not my family, not my brother, not me. I am okay with the neighbor's child being queer, but my child cannot. Okay, so those are, I would just call them pseudo allies. If you are genuinely an ally, if you genuinely accept and embrace everyone truly, right, then you automatically get embraced by persons from the community as well. And it's like, when I say community, it's not like one physical society or like a physical club or a physical it's not like you walk into a community of persons. Okay, the LGBTQ people are all around us, and if we are a true ally, it will not matter if your child comes up to you tomorrow and says, mom, I am a lesbian, or mom, I am gay. If you're a true ally, you would across the board be accepting of people from your family, people from outside your family, anyone and everyone, right? So that's being a true ally. And when the opposite person sees your authenticity, sees your genuineness, they automatically accept you. So it's not like you will get rejected. But if you definitely are a pseudo ally, if you wear it on your sleeve and you go proclaiming to the world that you're an ally, but when it comes to people in your own family or at your own workplace, if you discriminate, it's visible, it comes across, and then obviously people from the community are not going to like it and not going to accept it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm so glad you're here today. Sensitization is something that we all require, and before that, we require knowledge on the topic. Very truly said. When the reality will come when you actually come across a person in your own family, is when you will actually realize whether you are an ally or
Or
not.
not.
Definitely. I believe you're also a Toastmaster, like you said, not one, but two Toastmasters clubs, right? So we would like to know which club do you belong to, number one. And I believe you've also started, you're also a charter member, I was told, of a
Yes.
club for the community. So we would like to know a little about that.
Sure. So the first Toastmaster club that I became a member of is Toastmasters Indiranagar Pride, which is based in Indiranagar in Bangalore. And that used to be a physical club. We used to meet physically at the Rotary Club building in Indiranagar. We have our meetings on Sundays at 5 p.m. Of course, after COVID, everything moved online. So now we attend meetings virtually. The second club was started during the pandemic. It was started by a person from Pune. His name is Toastmaster Swaraj Kasar. he was already a Toastmaster, and he belongs to the LGBT community. He realized that there is no safe space to discuss LGBTQ issues, to spread the word, spread the knowledge, give a safe space and a safe haven to people from the community to just be themselves. And that's how, that was his motivation and inspiration behind founding Rainbow Toastmasters. I was among the first persons he approached, and by virtue of that, I became a charter member. Sumita here is also a member of the same club, Rainbow Toastmasters. We are the world's first online LGBTQIA and allies club, and because we are a global club, we, you know, by virtue of that, we are permanently online. We don't meet physically. What we do is, just like NVezion has a different format, we also have a slightly tweaked format of the Toastmaster meeting, where we have our speeches, we have our table topics, and we have one special section called the Rainbow Ramble section. And in that Rainbow Ramble section, we spread knowledge, we spread awareness, we even talk about any relevant news related to the queer community, so that all our members get something out of, you know, Rainbow Toastmasters, which is different and which is special, which is completely us, you know, which is completely about the community. So that's my second club, Rainbow Toastmasters, and I'm equally proud of both my clubs. And incidentally, Faisal and I met at a third Toastmasters club, which I was considering joining. That's the Podcasters Toastmasters club, but that's a different story. I'm a member of these two clubs, so Indranagar Pride and Rainbow Toastmasters.
And the Rainbow Toastmasters, yes. So that is what we really wanted to know about the Rainbow Toastmasters Club and how different it is and what all you do there.
Right.
And hopefully to be able to join in one of your meetings and be part of it.
Sure.
I have a whole lot of other questions also in for you about why did you choose to be this, and what are the different problems, some real problems that people could know of. So would you like to take these up later after your presentation?
Right, I'll do that. I'll certainly do that, because I want you all to understand why you need to know about the community. So it's okay to, you know, invite a speaker and have a speech, get to know about the LGBT community, but why does it matter to you, and why do you need to know about this? I'll be glad to discuss. It's not currently a part of my presentation, but I'll be more than happy to discuss it maybe after I finish presenting.
Definitely.
And I'll tell you, you know, why it really affects persons belonging to the community, right?
Yes, exactly. So that people know about, and if they have to empathize with somebody, they should know the kind of problems that somebody is facing. I also many times feel when we say the word community, aren't we already putting them into a different box when we speak so much about inclusion? Why do we call it community? Why do we even need to give that a name as such?
So in an ideal world, in a very utopian society, ideally, a person's gender and a person's sexuality should not matter at all. So there should be no reason to segregate someone and say, oh, you belong to this community, right? The same way in which we have persons with disabilities, or we have different castes, creeds, religions, we should not be identifying a person. That should not become their sole identity. So, you know, the caste, community, religion, whatever you belong to is a small part of your identity, and similarly is gender and sexuality. But that should not become your, you know, your complete identity. That should not become your only qualifying factor, your only identifying factor. When that happens, then you are discriminating. When you say, you know, this is my gay friend XYZ, this is my lesbian friend XYZ, no, not required. So ideally, it should, you know, it should not even matter. Yes, it should not even matter. But as of now, we are far from achieving those utopian standards. So as of now, we still speak of them as a community.
As a different community, yeah. And just one more thing. I heard one of your interviews, and you spoke about gender and sexuality being two very different things. And I believe, I understand, I'm from a science background, and even I did not think they were very different things. But when I heard you and I read about it more and I contemplated on it and I realized how and why we need to differentiate the two. So will you be dealing with it in your presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Those are the very basics, so I'll be starting with those.
Yes,
So
definitely.
it'll be a part of the presentation,
Yeah.
right?
So
And yeah,
I would invite you to begin your presentation now, and
sure.
because I'm sure people out here are waiting with questions they have in mind, and everybody is all the things. I will request you, whatever questions come to your mind, to write it down and keep it with you. And after the presentation that Dilshad has prepared for us, we will have a Q&A session, because I know I have a whole list of questions here. And if I start doing that, then Dilshad's presentation, we will not be able to begin with it.
Sure.
So, Toastmaster Dilshad,
Right.
would like to hear you and see your presentation.
Certainly. So, yeah, like you said, I would just like to say I'll be there till the very end, till all the questions are exhausted. So, if anyone has any questions, anything, even if you feel it's silly, it's stupid, please don't feel that way. Ask away and keep all your questions ready. I'll be there till the last question's answered. So, no worries on that. No question is small, no question is stupid. Please just keep them flowing. Right. I believe you can see my screen.
We can.
Yes, all right, sure. So, like we just discussed, we are here to talk of gender and sexuality beyond the binaries. Now, binary by itself means two. We are used to seeing everything. In fact, the human brain normally classifies, we tend to box things. Our brain tends to identify with things when they are clearly categorized. So even when it comes to gender, we see only two. We see M and F, right? But that is not the way it works. What gender and sexuality actually is not just M and F, but it is actually an entire spectrum. So just like one white ray of light leads to a spectrum of colors that we call the rainbow, similarly gender and sexuality. And this is precisely why the rainbow is used as a symbol of the queer community, because everything is a spectrum. It is non-binary. It is not a binary. Now, to begin to understand about gender and sexuality, let's start with the very basics, right? First, we start with understanding what the word sex itself means. And here I speak of sex as a noun and not as a verb. Sex simply means who you are born as, and by that definition, you do not have control over it. It is assigned to you by a medical practitioner. It is assigned to you based on your genitalia primarily, or in cases of any sort of confusion, it is based on chromosomes or hormonal tests, right? There are only three types of sexes. There is male, female, and intersex. Now, intersex means that if the medical practitioner or if the medical professional is unable to clearly categorize the sex of the child between male and female, if the genitalia is unclear or if there is a chromosomal anomaly, then the child is categorized as intersex. So these are the three types of sex there are. Next is gender identity. Now, gender identity means who you see yourself as. Again, by definition, it is self-determined. More about gender identity a little later. Next, we come to sexuality or sexual orientation. Now, this happens a little later on in life, in your pre-teens and adolescent years, and it could happen at any stage in life after that as well. But your sexuality is who you are attracted to. So who you are physically, emotionally, sexually attracted to will decide what your sexuality is. Now, the word cisgender, you heard me use it earlier, and you will hear a lot of people talk about, being cisgendered. Now, what exactly does that mean? When your sex, which is assigned to you at birth, is the same as the gender that you identify with or you identify as, you are a cisgendered person. To give you an example, I was assigned female at birth and my gender identity is also female, which makes me a cisgendered female. Right? It's that simple. Where your sex is equal to your gender identity, you're cisgendered. The reverse is true for transgender. Now, transgender, the sex assigned to you at birth by the medical professional over which you have no control, is not the same as the gender you identify as. You grow up to feel different from the sex you're assigned at birth, and therefore by virtue of that you are transgender. It's as simple as that. Now, a few frequently used terminologies before we move forward. Gender expression. Now, gender expression refers to how you present your gender externally, which means how you dress, how you walk, how you talk, everything external, extrinsic to your body and to the way you present yourself to another person is your gender expression. Again, it is unique to each individual, just like your fingerprint. Each one of us are different in our dressing and the way we walk, talk and express ourselves. That becomes our gender expression. Gender dysphoria. Now, in terms of the sex and the gender not being in congruence, if an individual does not identify his or their gender with the sex that they were assigned at birth, there is a mental state of confusion. That mental state is called dysphoria. When it relates to gender, it is called gender dysphoria. Any state of incongruence between sex assigned at birth and the gender one identifies with is known as gender dysphoria. Coming to gender transition. So once the state of confusion is over, once the person has come to terms with the gender they wish to identify with, they begin their journey of transitioning. I will speak of transitioning a little later as well. There are multiple types of transitions. We will see that as we go forward. But gender transition is your journey of change from the sex you were initially assigned at birth to the gender you wish to identify as. Now, let's understand only gender a little better. The characteristics of gender, as I mentioned, it is self-determined. Unlike sex, which is assigned to you at birth, this is determined by you and you alone. Your parents, friends, siblings, no one can decide that for you. It is for you to decide and determine for yourself. Gender is largely a social construct, which means the kind of role that you play or the way you express yourself in terms of gender may differ from geography to geography, may differ from nationalities, may differ religion-wise, or it's a very social construct. Even your economic backgrounds may go into into defining your gender expression. So gender is a very social construct. And lastly, it is as dynamic and fluid as you want it to be. Your gender is determined by you, and therefore at any age and stage in life you may choose to identify differently, and therefore it is very dynamic and fluid. So I could identify as female today, my pronouns could be she and her. Maybe 10-20 years down the line I may feel like I do not want a gender identity which is fitting the binary. So I may choose to undergo, I may say that I am gender non-conforming, right? So it is very dynamic and very fluid. I'll explain as we keep moving forward. Now, just to explain you in terms of a spectrum, gender on one hand you have male, on the other you have female, and in the middle you have transgender. We've already discussed what these terms mean. Transgender, the word transgender itself, by itself, is a huge spectrum. So where a male could actually identify as a transgender woman, or a female assigned at birth could actually identify as a transgender man. So those are trans binary identities, again two, male and female. And then you have trans non-binary or non-conforming. So you have some individuals who, although they don't identify with the sex they were assigned at birth, they also don't want to identify as trans binary. So they don't want to, if it's a male we are speaking of, that person may not wish to identify as a transgender woman, and vice versa. Those persons who do not wish to conform to the binary are called transgender non-binary or transgender non-conforming. So suffice to say that the word transgender is also a spectrum. It's not just being a trans woman, right? Now let's understand sexuality a little better. Characteristics of sexuality, again, pretty much the same. It is self-determined. The change here is it is based on attraction. So it is based on physical, emotional, sexual attraction towards somebody else. So in that sense, gender is intrinsic. Sexuality in a way is also intrinsic because it's the way how you feel, but about someone else. So how you feel and whom you feel attracted to will determine your sexuality. Once again, it is very dynamic and very fluid. You could have lived 30 or 40 or 50 years of your life thinking and knowing that you are heterosexual, but somewhere something flips, some change happens, and suddenly you identify as bisexual or homosexual. So it can happen at any age and stage in life. So it's very dynamic and very fluid. That's about sexuality. Now in sexuality, it's a different spectrum altogether. On one hand, you have heterosexuals. On the other, you have homosexuals. In the middle, you have bisexuals. Bisexuals are those individuals who are attracted to both same-sex persons and opposite-sex persons. Within homosexuals, you have women attracted to women are called lesbians, and men attracted to men are called gays. The word gay is also used as an umbrella term for homosexuals. So when a woman says that I am gay, it means that technically she's a lesbian, but the word gay can be used as an umbrella term for homosexuality in general, right? So a person who falls in love with another person or is attracted to another person irrespective of their gender identity, that person is called pansexual. So the difference between bisexual and pansexual is this: bisexuals will be attracted to both men and women. A pansexual person could be attracted to men, women, trans persons, anyone, right? Non-conforming, non-binary trans persons, gender fluid people, all of them. So that would make that person's sexuality pansexual. Now let's look at gender pronouns. This is a section I have introduced largely because most people today find it a little confusing. Some find it very, some find it rather insulting, or some people say, you know, I look like a man, my picture's up there on LinkedIn or on social media. Why do I need to tell the world what my pronouns are? So what is the need for you to talk to others or announce your pronouns? Right? The first thing is, by telling the world your pronouns, you are declaring that do not assume. Just because I look the way I look, do not assume what my pronouns should be or will be. Secondly, you're saying, I have declared my pronouns and I respect your right to self-determination. So I am clearly, openly telling you that these are my pronouns, and it gives a subtle signal and a subtle message to people that I also respect your right at the self-determination of your pronouns. And thirdly, and most importantly, it is also a subtle signal to say, I am an ally. I know the significance of pronouns, and I understand you using your pronouns. I respect your right to use your pronouns. So if I see someone, with a female name, but the pronouns are they and them, if I have declared my pronouns, it shows that I am an ally, and I understand that this person who's using they and them, I respect them for it, and I will use they and them when I address that person. So these are the reasons why we need, one, to declare our pronouns, and two, to show the opposite person that we respect their right and their prerogative to do so for themselves. This is not an exhaustive list of the pronouns that are out there. The only reason I'm putting it up here is for you to understand that apart from she and he that we are used to listening to in terms of people, they and them is also a very used and very accepted pronoun for people who are non-binary or non-conforming, right? So they and them, how is it used in a sentence? It is used as plural. So even when you're talking of one person, let's say I speak of someone called Ravi, and I say Ravi is non-conforming, and Ravi's pronouns are they them. I will say their pronouns are they them. So Ravi I will speak of in the plural, they them, right? Their pronouns, not his, their pronouns are they and them, right? So that's the way pronouns are used. You need not know all pronouns that are out there, but having known that there are different pronouns and having declared your own pronouns, you are showing the world that you are respectful of whatever pronouns they choose for themselves. That is the more important part here. Now coming to gender transitions, I spoke earlier that when you move from gender dysphoria to gender transition. So there are various types of gender transitions. We will quickly go through them. These are the different types of transition. One, first and foremost, is the social transition, where you begin to express the gender identity that you identify as. So let's say a man feels like a trans woman. He feels that his gender identity is that of a trans woman. Socially, he shall begin to transition through his gender expression. So he will dress, walk, talk, behave like a woman. That's a social transition, when your externals are transitioning to the gender that you wish to identify as. Next is your legal transition. As the word suggests, this when you undergo legal transition, there is a change of name, change of gender identity on papers in black and white. So that's a legal transition. When you undergo a change of name, you go through the entire process, you publish it in the newspaper, you get a brand new name certificate, all of that. You also nowadays get a gender certificate issued by the district magistrate. That has come to be after the Transgender Act of 2019 has been enacted. So that's a legal transition that a person can undergo. Then there is the hormone replacement therapy. Now in this case, this is used only by persons who want to be transgender binary persons. That is, you want from female if you want to become a trans man, or from male you want to become a trans woman. They may or may not choose to undergo hormone replacement therapy. Those people who are transgender non-conforming or transgender non-binary do not go through hormone replacement therapy. As the name suggests, it's simply suppression of the dominant hormone in your body and pumping in hormones of the other gender that you wish to identify as. So if you want to be a trans woman, you suppress the testosterone in your body and you increase the estrogen in your body, right? In case of woman, it is the reverse. The estrogen is suppressed and the testosterone is pumped in. Right? And this once you start it, you have to undergo it for the rest of your life. If you stop, eventually your body will start showing signs of the sex that you were assigned at birth. So those, if you wish to avoid those changes happening, once you start with HRT, you have to continue it for the rest of your life. And finally, the last stage could be that of sex reassignment surgery. Now, why I say could be is because it may happen that you wish to undergo SRS, or you may not undergo SRS. That by no means is a decider for you to declare that you are transgender. You can still be transgender without actually having undergone a sexual reassignment surgery. Right? Now, this means, sex reassignment surgery means you actually modify your body to agree with the gender that you identify as. So a trans woman goes through multiple surgeries to change her body to that of a female, and vice versa for a trans man. So sex reassignment surgery, all these are optional. Most trans persons begin first with the social transitioning. It is not a rigid order, or it's not like if you start with social transitioning you have to go right up to SRS. Any of these stages you may or may not wish to undergo. Some people don't even undergo legal transition. Some insist on legal transition first and then start their social transition. There is no hard and fast order, or there is no hard and fast like a hierarchy to say that this is first and this is second and you have to undergo SRS or HRT. It's completely optional. Now, talking of inclusive parenting, as parents, the first and foremost thing that we need to know are the differences between sex, gender and sexuality. If you have understood that, you will at least be open to the idea of your child or your sibling or even your parents, because it's a fluid and dynamic. Gender and sexuality are both dynamic and fluid. So even at any stage in life, they come and tell you that they do not identify as the gender that they have been assigned, the sex that they were assigned initially. You will be open to the idea if you first understand that all three are different, and sex is something that was assigned to you and gender is something that you've determined for yourself, right? So that's the first thing as parents you need to keep an open mind about. Secondly, when does a person know? As far as gender identity goes, a child as young as 2.5, 3 at times knows that they do not identify with the sex that they were assigned, right? And when it continues over a period of time where they continuously show indicators that they do not conform to the sex assigned at birth, that's when you know that there is some amount of dysphoria in the child's mind. As parents, largely it is shushed at, it is they are asked to shut up, they are asked to keep quiet. That's very incorrect. This is again not to scare parents and say just because your son asks to play with a doll once, your son doesn't become transgender. I'm talking of a consistent behavior over months and over years, where the child grows up feeling inconsistent with the sex that he's asked to conform with. If that happens, then yes, there is a great chance of the child undergoing gender dysphoria. Now, what are the distinguishing factors to look out for? As I said, it has to be a consistent behavior on the child's part, whether it's in the playthings that they wish to play with, whether it's the way they wish to keep their hair, the kind of clothes they wish to wear, the way they try to express their gender. All these consistently over a period of time will give you sufficient indicators that there is some amount of dysphoria in the child's mind. What are the steps we should be taking? First and foremost, do not sweep it under the carpet. That's the first step you can take. Secondly, embrace your child just the way they are. You cannot love them any less just because all of a sudden you realize that you had a son but the son identifies as a woman. It should not matter. the person inside remains the same. The person only has an issue with their body, and therefore your love for them should not change. And another concrete step that you could do is you could be an ally to your own child. You could be a supporter of their own child. You could take your child to a queer affirmative counselor, someone who can administer a test for gender dysphoria, for you to find out if your fears are true. And if the child is undergoing gender dysphoria, then there are many other things that you can help the child with medically, depending on the stage at which it is diagnosed. You can take puberty blockers, you can assist in SRS, but all this happens only later once they are adults. So SRS you can undergo only as an adult, but the earlier it is detected, the lesser discrimination the child goes through, the happier the child is, the less depressed the child grows up to be, and the less bullied the child is. The earlier the acceptance within their first circle of comfort, which is among the parents, then the second circle will be your school teachers, your school friends, peers. If the first circle supports, everything else falls in line. So that's the best thing a parent can do for the child, is be an ally to your own child when your child is undergoing dysphoria. And lastly, what is sex education? Now, most parents, and culturally, socially, in India especially, we refuse to speak of this. We think sex education is only about teaching our child sexual intercourse, and because if we teach it, we will encourage it. Therefore, we wish not to talk about it or not to teach it. But that's very incorrect. Now, sexual intercourse is just one tiny little part of the entire ambit of sex education. Sex education involves a lot. We don't shy away from teaching our children about good touch, bad touch, right? So similarly, we shouldn't shy away from teaching our children about gender and sexuality as well, because your child could be tomorrow's bully, or he could be the victim of bullying. So therefore, it is incumbent on the parent to also talk to the child about gender and sexuality. It's not like you will be putting ideas into his head, and by talking about it, he will suddenly say that, they are homosexual or they are trans. It doesn't happen that way. The other aspects of sex education could be menstrual hygiene. Menstrual hygiene should be taught to both boys and girls. Boys also need to be aware of it. The girl would any which ways eventually learn, whether you speak to her about it or not. But you must speak to the girls as well, but definitely speak to the boys also. They are the ones who are going to support their girlfriends, wives, sisters, mothers going on further in life. So it is incumbent that we also speak to boys about menstrual hygiene, genital hygiene, consent. Consent forms a very big part of sex education. All of this, the parent should be willing to speak to the child about. And finally, speaking about inclusive work culture. At work, remember, it should always flow top down. When it flows top down, there is less resistance, more acceptance. There is a general feeling of well-being if an employee knows that he is cared for and looked after by his employer. Next, never give in to pressure and retract policies. Now, just to share a true life story, there is a UK multi-chain wholesale brand, very, very famous brand, which in the mid-80s and early 90s declared its stance on being queer inclusive. And once they declared that, all hell broke loose. They suffered massive losses. They were, their profits just dipped very, very badly. So there was a lot of pressure from the shareholders, from the board of directors to retract. Let's retract. Let's not call it, because when they conducted surveys, they realized that people did not like the fact that they were being openly queer inclusive. Fortunately, this brand stuck to its guns. It did not change its stance, and then magic happened after about 9 to 10 months of profits just completely dipping. They gradually began soaring to the extent that by within 3 to 5 years they were growing exponentially. And not just that, they then today in retrospect are now considered the pioneers of queer inclusivity. So just like we don't shy away from declaring that we are PWD compliant, that is persons with difficulty compliant, we build ramps, we have signages, we go all out of our way to be PWD inclusive. Why not be queer inclusive as well? It's very important that the management stick to its guns. Retracting is the easy bit. Sticking to your guns in spite of dipping profits is difficult, but over a in retrospect, it always works out for the better. What are the things that you should be aware of at the workplace that you need to undergo? A lot of physical ambience changes in terms of washrooms, signages, all of that needs to be taken care of. Communications, both internal, external, advertorial, all your communication needs to be in sync and queer inclusive. And lastly, none of it will matter if the ultimate person that represents your company, that is your employee, from the last man in the chain to the top man in the chain, if they haven't been educated and involved in the entire process, it doesn't matter how much you spend in your advertising and marketing budget to tell the whole world that you're inclusive. If you are fake inclusive, the matter will come out at some point in time or the other. Your employees will not feel safe, will not feel included. So therefore, it matters a lot to spend wisely and consistently on educating your employees about queer sensitization and about being queer inclusive. Finally, I would just say, do not just be a bystander to the queer community. Be an ally. We've already discussed it doesn't take much. It just takes the openness of mind to be an ally. And go a step further if you really feel for the community. Learn about it, study about it, be an advocate, be an upstander to the community. That's about it. These are my details. If anyone wishes to reach out, I will just leave the slide on for a moment. And with this, I have finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dilshad. It was indeed an eye-opener.
Thank you.
And believe you me, I'm sure there's so many things that I learned today. Everything actually about your presentation, from gender to gender identity, sexuality, cisgender, something like a dysphoria or gender expression. I have not heard about it. I mean, now I wonder if I, as a mother of two grown-up boys, an 18-year-old who's a boy who's just turned an adult, I wish I had known about it earlier before my son left for hostel. I would have wanted to speak to him when I sat down and spoke to him about a whole lot of other things that he can expect there at the hostel. A whole lot of things when I was teaching about menstruation, like you spoke about, when I sat down with my boys and I told them what it is, and how probably later they can help their partners or their girlfriends. And what if he comes across a girl, how he should behave with her, what is expected out of a grown-up boy. I wish I had known about this earlier and spoken to him. I'm sure there's a whole lot of things that many of us also wish that they had known. They would like to speak, they would like to know more. So the house is open now for
Yes.
questions. And I would request you all to just unmute yourself. If possible, show us your lovely faces. That helps us connect better, know who's there around. And Dilshad is here with all your questions.
Yes.
Just raise your hands and I know that I can call you for a question. So Toastmaster Faisal, yes.
Yes.
Would you like to ask your question directly to Toastmaster Dilshad?
Yes. Thank you so much, Dilshad, for these insights. Indeed, a great learning for all of us, because somewhere we are into some environment where we feel bad talking about these subjects, and due to some social restrictions. How you see this subject, when it comes to some prohibition in society and religion, how to deal with these kind of things, where it uh, is strictly prohibited to talk about these things, and this is not permitted in some religion and some society.
Yes.
So how you answer these things?
Okay. So my first reply to all of this is, as a parent, you are not a parent as a Hindu parent or a Christian parent or a Muslim parent, right? You are a father to a child, you are a mother to a child, you are a parent. And when a child is born, you sort of look at the child and vow to do everything, to keep your child happy, right? That's the first feeling that a parent undergoes when he or she looks at their own child, and you say that irrespective of anything, I'm going to protect and love my child. So now when the child expresses something that he innately feels, it's not because of Amazon, or you have Prime or Netflix or, college company or anything of that sort. It's something that the child innately feels. Why do we bring in religion? When we become parents, we don't become, like I said, we're not Hindu parents or Muslim parents or Christian parents. But when it comes to this, now suddenly religion comes in. It just means that you're finding an excuse not to love your child enough. And if you love your child enough, gender and sexuality of your child should not matter, irrespective of the religion. Like I said, if the parent stands as the first ally of their child, entire society will fall in line. The child will have the confidence, the child will have the courage to face bullies, to face society, because no matter how much you support your child, outside world will be cruel to the child. But imagine if the child has to come back to a cruel home. Now that the child cannot escape, the world is going to be cruel to him. Who will give him the confidence? It's the parents, it's the first circle of loved ones which give him a safe space, a safe haven to feel and be the way he or she wants to be. Now if that foundation is what you cannot provide to your child, and you bring in religion into the matter, then your entire love for your child is questionable. Then as a parent, it should not matter. Love for your child should not undergo a change. Just like we keep saying, these days, ठीक है, अगर आप डॉक्टर की एग्जाम आप लिखते हो, अगर आप नहीं क्लियर कर पाते हो, यू स्टिल गोइंग टू लव योर चाइल्ड. अगर इंजीनियर बनने निकला है, वो नहीं बन पाता है इंजीनियर, यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू लव योर चाइल्ड एनी लेस. Similarly, you thought that your child will marry a woman, but he feels happier with another man. Why should that change your love towards your child? Okay? Or if your child, you love the child, let's say as a boy, but tomorrow he says, I feel like a woman. Why should is your love as a parent, conditional? If we say that our love for our child is unconditional, then these are the conditions we need to think of. Will my love for my child change if my child says tomorrow that I'm not a son and I'm a daughter, or vice versa? So that speaks of the love the parent has for the child. It doesn't speak ill of the child. It speaks, and all these are just excuses, bringing in religion, bringing in other factors. What will society say? What will society think? We are just putting conditions on ourselves because we do not wish to accept. If we accept, everything else falls in line. So that's the way I see it.
Thank you so much indeed, an eye-opener, and we have taken a lot of things as takeaways. All right, I think Sheila is raising her hand. She wanted to ask some question.
Hi, Delshad.
Hi, Sheila. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
So I have two questions.
Yeah.
One is, what is scientifically proven as to how this happens?
Okay.
That's one thing. I'm just curious to know, and how prevalent it is, in the sense, one in X number of people this can happen, or something like that. Some numbers around that based on some research or whatever.
Sure.
That's my first set of questions. And second one is, practically, where do I see these people when I'm driving my car in the signal, right? The very thought that comes to me is they're so aggressive. When I see them, I just put the glass up, right?
Okay.
And even when let's say I'm going in an auto, then I'm like so scared, in the sense I don't show it, but they're
Right.
literally touching you, and they're saying whatever things, and they come up as solid built kind of individuals. So it would always strike to me that why are these guys not given the equal opportunities in terms of employment,
Right.
productively engage them? What is government doing about this? Every time I get these thoughts.
Right. So I'll take your first question. First, you're speaking of numbers. Now, these figures are not covered by any census, Sheila. The only figures we have are that of intersex children. And even those figures, when it comes to the Indian context, are very skewed, because the minute a child is born intersex, the first thing, if the doctor comes out and tells the parents that the child's genitalia is indiscernible and the child is an intersex child, the first feeling is try and do something. This is too much of social stigma attached to being intersex, so try and do something to my child and make him male. Invariably they'll say make him male, very few will say make him female. But so the numbers on intersex children are very skewed. However, the universal numbers or the global numbers are 1 in 10,000 children are intersex, are born intersex. Now remember, this is a medical anomaly, right, where the genitalia is not clearly discernible. Okay, so that's one figure for you. When it comes to LGB are sexualities. Now, sexualities are not something that is covered under any census. So, the figures that you will have will vary from country to country and from, let's say, NGO to NGO, those who conduct surveys, depending upon their sample size. All right. Also, the fact that most people may not wish to disclose their sexuality openly. Right, so you will not get any solid, authentic figures on sexuality. Another thing about sexuality is it's very rude or demeaning to ask a person what sexuality they belong to unless they are out about it themselves. So you will not get any figures, but it is more prevalent than we think it is. So I can just tell you that it's not 1 in a million, or it's not that rare. It's all around us. It is there right in front of our eyes. Either we don't see it, or the person doesn't wish to come out and speak of it. That's about sexuality. About gender, the Indian census figures for transgenders are only 4 lakhs in our 1.2 or 3 billion. That's because these are persons who are out and about their gender identity. So therefore we have those figures, because in the census they are counted as transgenders, right? And they belong to different communities which are based state-wise. So you have your Hijra community, and you have your Aravanis, and you have your Jogappas. So all these are counted people as counted as transgender citizens, right? But there are many more all around us, in families, at workplaces, who do not actually belong say to these communities. They don't go and join these communities, right? And those figures are largely unknown, mainly again because of social stigma. When a person comes to collect census at your doorstep, and let's say you have a transgender child, what are the chances that you will tell the person that yes, I have 2 children, one is a trans man and the other is a daughter, or vice versa? So we don't have any solid figures, to be very honest. That's your first question. Your second question was about the look of the women that we see, the trans women that we see out on the road. Now, what has the government done? The government has done quite a bit. Much more needs to be done, but the government has been quite proactive, I would say. In 2019, they have passed the Transgender Act, which was finally accepted and signed by the President on 5th December 2019. It has come into force. Any discrimination against a transgender person, physical, verbal, emotional, any sort of discrimination against transgender persons is punishable under the law. Self-determination of gender is permitted under this act. Getting a gender certificate is also quite simple, and I have personally found out from a trans woman friend. She has gone ahead and got her gender certificate, and the process has been seamless, very smooth, very easy, without any problem. So again, government has been proactive there. A lot of state governments have now established quotas for jobs of transgender persons. So that's again another thing. I could name a few of the very proactive states. One is Odisha, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra. Karnataka is joining the bandwagon now. Karnataka was a little late in getting on board, but it's joining up. So these states, largely the southern states, have been very proactive as far as providing job opportunities to trans persons are concerned. The people you see on the street, they are the way they are because they have not undergone hormone replacement therapy. So physically they are still male. They still have a lot of testosterone in their body, which gives their body the so-called male structure. Okay, and the gender expression of these persons is that of a woman or a trans woman, right? So
Right.
the body remains largely male, but the gender expression is female, and therefore, because again they do not conform to our standards of what a female should look like, we feel afraid or we feel a little different. We feel like it's a man
Right.
dressed as a woman, but it's not that. They are innately, they feel like a woman. They have not had the privilege of undergoing hormone replacement therapy, which I can tell you for a fact that if they undergo, the transition is so beautiful that you will not be able to tell the difference. If a trans woman who's actually undergone HRT stands in front of you, the same person, you will not be able to tell that this is a man, or this is physically the person has a male body. That's the kind of change that hormone replacement brings about. It gives you a different shape, it gives you curves, depending on, of course, which hormone you're taking for what kind of transition. It completely transforms a person, right? And that's the only reason we feel afraid of them at signals, because our mind does not accept that this is actually a woman. In your mind, you're thinking this is a male. And as far as the touching goes, as far as they are not provided job opportunities very readily, again because of our social stigma towards them.
Yeah.
Therefore, they resort to either begging or sex work. Now, even in begging, normally if you see an able-bodied person begging, the first reaction is, "तुम जाके कहीं कुछ काम क्यों नहीं करते?" Right? Why don't you go take a job? Now, in case of trans women, we already know why they can't take a job, because we don't offer them that job. So, how do they scare you into? They are playing on your fear psychosis. If you are afraid of them, you will shell out money. So they are simply using your fear against you to try and say, I will touch you, I will do this, I will raise my sari, I will, whatever, just to get you to pay up, right? So if we stop fearing them, if we just be normal, if we just behave like we are not afraid of you, they will eventually go away. But because the minute they see us cringe, the minute they see some fear, some aversion, then they know that, okay, this is the right target. Now if I keep doing this to her, like if I keep threatening to touch her, or if I keep threatening to do something to her, she will immediately shell out money. So that's the fear, and it's pure psychology. That's what they play on. And if we reverse the psychology, that's it. I mean, we win over them. So yeah.
Thanks so much, Dilshad. That was so informative.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Sheila, and thank you so much, Toastmaster Dilshad, for taking it so nicely. I think I was first introduced to these operations and all this way of actually changing the gender was through movies only. And I think it is only through movies that we have learned also how to behave badly with them. Otherwise, where does a person learn? Our movies have been instrumental in both of these. Lately, with so much information out in the public, or let's say the awareness coming in, you have movies like the latest one last year that came up, Chandigarh Tade Ashiki, that was the Bollywood movie. And the Hollywood movie that won an Oscar in 2015, The Danish Girl. These ones that have come up now, where people have started appreciating and understanding, and especially this one was graphically actually telling, how acceptance, and then telling what all is there, and how one actually goes through from emotional trauma to physical trauma. All this was taken care of. So there is so much more to be done as far as information, knowledge is concerned, for people to accept. If I do not know what it is, it's difficult for me to accept. But then, yes, the
Correct.
way you are doing work as a queer sensitization catalyst, I think we need more of such people. We need to sensitize ourselves and then also to sensitize others. Uh, Anybody else who would like to take up a question, or then we would like to close the session because we're already coming to an end of the meet. Okay, I don't see anyone out here now. Um, since we have spoken so much about it, I would also like to know, and you've also spoken about some problems. Um, how do you feel today, Toastmaster Delshad, after spending a good about, I think, 5 odd years is what I believe you're in this field.
4 years.
4 years.
But yeah.
How does it make you feel now, or has it changed you as a person, or what is there a new Dilshad now?
So it certainly has in terms of the prejudices and biases you hold. So when you begin becoming a catalyst, or when you be a consultant in the field of diversity, equity and inclusion, the first step to it is to know the judgments and the biases that you yourself hold. So in that sense, it just helps make you a better person when you not only speak of inclusion, but you demonstrate that inclusion in your daily life. So that automatically makes you a better person. So that way it has changed me. It has made me more empathetic. It has made me a better listener, because I get to hear of a lot of stories, and every story starts off on a very similar note. Nobody heard me, nobody accepted me, no, people refused, my parents shut me off, my parents tried to convert me, they tried to undergo conversion therapy, all of that. So you automatically become a better listener, a better empathizer, and more self-aware of your own biases and prejudices, and all put together it makes you a better human being. So yes, it's changed me tremendously.
And I'm sure it's easier said than done, right? And if I call myself an empathetic person, truthfully, I also do not know till the time I don't face something like this. So if I tell everybody and say, let's understand before we judge, and let's put ourselves in somebody else's shoes, I fully understand also this thing that is easier said than done. Because truthfully, if tomorrow I actually face something like this, I really do not know how I myself would react to it.
Correct.
So I can only hope that I am empathetic towards somebody when I come across something like this in a near and dear one. And I hope to read more about it. I hope to study more about it, understand, and then probably definitely pass on, at least to my own children to begin with. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Dilshad. It's been a phenomenal session today. We have
Thank
so
you.
loved you to be here.
Thank you
And
so
with
much.
that, I would like to hand over the session to Toastmaster Syed Faisal Zaidi, who is here with something very interesting to lighten up the mood. Toastmaster Faisal Zaidi, the virtual stage is yours.
First of all, wish we could have more time to hear and ask more question from Dilshad. I'm sharing her LinkedIn profile link in the public chat, though one message I have mistakenly published. But this time, the link for Dilshad's LinkedIn, if you want to interact and ask more questions, you can connect with her and you can ask more questions. Before I go and start uh, with some crazy things, let us why I'm not finding here.
Well, Toastmaster Faisal is searching for something. Let me tell our viewers and our members who've been so Nice to participate and stay with us till now. We also had planned a table topic session, if time permitted, and a table topic master, Toastmaster Vichitraveer, was there with a whole lot of things. But we are going to request him to keep that thing, to keep those topics with him and not share today, but and keep it for the next meeting. Toastmaster Faisal, are you ready with your questions?
Yes, I'm ready, but I have some problem here. I'm not been
I'm
able
so
to.
sorry for
This
taking your
happens
time.
to me. Yeah, this happens to me with my computer. I don't know what is happening. Share option is giving me trouble. I'm trying to share the screen. I will share the screen better. All right, I'll share the screen. Instead of sharing the PowerPoint, I'll just share the screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is certificate
Coming
of
up.
appreciation. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much,
much. Thank
Dilshad, and
you.
this certificate will be sent to you via WhatsApp or
Thank
LinkedIn or
you.
email. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Now I'm moving to my in our club. We don't give our guest easy. We want to give them tough time, so we call it tease your guest moment.
Sure. Sure, sure, sure.
And then I have for audiences as well. So
Okay.
let's go with you first. You can see the screen.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right. So what you have to do today, you have to act as one of the character. I am sure that you must have watched this movie Sholay. So
Okay.
the dialogue is for you. जब तक तेरे पैर चलेंगे उसकी सांस चलेगी तेरे पैर रुके तो बंदूक चलेगी. For you, Dilshad.
Okay, so I'll just share some trivia on this. This is something that I keep telling all my friends. You know, whenever we go out and anybody asks me to dance, and I always say that if I were Basanti, then Veeru would have been the first one to die. Jay to baad mein marta, pehle Veeru mar jata because I can't dance. Okay, so that's my Sholay trivia for you. But okay, so I have to say it as Gabbar, is it?
Yes, yes.
Um, जब तक तेरे पैर चलेंगे उसकी सांस चलेगी तेरे पैर रुके तो बंदूक चलेगी.
Wow, too quick, two more quick. जो
Okay.
डर गया समझो मर गया.
जो डर गया समझो मर गया.
And then last but not the least, यहाँ से 50-50 कोर दूर गांव में जब बच्चा रात को रोता है तो माँ कहती है बेटा सो जा नहीं तो गब्बर आ जाएगा.
You did it better than me, so
So it's your turn now.
okay. यहाँ से 50-50 कोस दूर गांव में जब बच्चा रात को रोता है तो माँ कहती है बेटे सो जा नहीं तो गब्बर सिंह आ जाएगा.
Great, great. Thank you, Dilshad.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a huge round of applause for Dilshad. And I have some quick things for
Thank
our
you.
audiences as well. Everyone can participate. I'm saying quick, but okay. Anyone can participate. I call it guess the gibberish. Guess the gibberish. So any guess? What is the answer for this? Ismi tohamam. And how ismi tohamam?
इसमें हम तुम.
नहीं it is Smita ma'am, I think.
Wow, correct answer.
Oh, wow.
All right, next.
Vichitraveer.
Vichitraveer, 1 point. This one, bullag, fried hai.
Oh my
Any
God.
guess? Quick. Black Friday.
Black Friday.
Oh.
Next.
No more school. No more school. No.
No more school.
Yes, correct answer.
Oh,
No
finally.
more school. Next.
Good, good. For your information.
Easy one, right?
For your information.
Wow.
Yeah, wow, nice, nice, nice.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you
Wow,
so
that was so
much. It
nice.
was
Did you
really
make
nice
them
time.
yourself? Did you make them yourself, Faisal?
Some of them, and then some I found on internet, Google.
Oh, amazing, really nice.
It was
Very
good.
interesting, very interesting.
This was lovely.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Thank you, Dilshad, and thank you, everyone who gave their time here and joining. I would like to have quick words from our guests if they want to give any feedback on our meeting and on this special segment, what we had today. Starting from Sumita, would you like to have some words? Your feedback on this meeting as whole.
The whole meeting, it was conducted very nicely, like from starting from the questions before the presentation. That was good. Like those who don't know also, they have got a good idea about it. So the way it was conducted, it was awesome. The presentation which Delshad has given in a very simplified way, but I have understood. Like we hear a lot of things but we don't understand it, but today I hope that all of us have understood it completely. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Sumita, for joining in. Keep attending our meetings, and we would love to see more and love to hear more from you. Vichitravir, few words from you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Sayed Faisal. So, as Toastmaster Dilshad, and the way she explained the topic of LGBTQ and how beautifully she explained, there were many questions in my mind. And whenever I used to think of a person who is an LGBTQ, many a times I ignore because I do not want to understand. I think of myself, I'm a boy, and the person who I like and I see around is a girl. I only feel affection towards a girl. So that is the reason I do not want to know about them, but only because of this meeting, I have got to know a lot of things. And thank you so much, Toastmaster Dilshad. I have also noted your LinkedIn. I will send you a request. Please
Sure,
accept and
sure, sure, sure.
set up a
Thank
meeting.
you, Vichitravir. Thank you so much. Nivanshi.
Hello everyone. The presentation was very simple. Many a times I've been trying to understand what is about this LGBTQ, and in my office also there is a very open environment about LGBTQ, but still I struggle to understand it. Today, through this presentation, I have come to know that these things are very simple to understand. We as a community make it very complicated, so we should support them and learn through them instead of humiliating them. Thank you.
Thank you, Nivanshi. My job is
Thank you,
done.
Nivanshi. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for your lovely words.
Wonderful. Wonderfully.
Uh, Guest Sheila, we have Sheila here.
No, yeah,
Sheila, few
Sheila
words
is
from
coming.
you.
Yeah, I would just reiterate that it was explained so in a simplified way, Dilshad. And I'm sure all of us run away from this topic, don't want to understand it, don't want to even see them as humans. Now I think we'll be more human towards them, right? That sensitization, I think, I mean, rarely people will think the way you're thinking, Dilshad, to bring about the sensitization and doing something for transgenders, and really appreciate your effort.
Thank
And
you.
thanks so much once again for a very nice, informative presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you so much, Sheila, for joining in, and thank you so much. Sunil Kriplani. Can you hear us? Sunil Kriplani. Moving ahead to Shekhar, few words from you.
I think he.
Thank you so much. As I said, it was very well presented. I happen to work with sexual minorities over the years, being an activist. Though I did know a lot of things about it, but yet it was quite informative and it was presented so professionally by Dilshad. And this othering thing that we do, as one of our colleagues said, like that we need to reduce. That I got it from it. now it was about the sexual minorities, and we keep on doing that. These, we tend to do that othering thing with be it sexual minorities, be it other people from the other classes or something. And today, I think we will be better people. That othering thing, we will do less of it. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Shekhar.
Thank you so much, Shekhar. Thank you so much. Indeed, the presentation and the information was very insightful, and we have learned a lot. There are a lot of things has been changed in our life.
Thanks.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Neelam Rizvi would like to have a few words from you. You can hear us, Neelam. Mohammad Shafat would like to say something. All right. At the last but not the least, I have kept this for last. Guest of the honor, Roshan Master Dilshad, help us knowing more about her, and we would like to hear a few words from her as well,
Okay.
if
Ammu?
possible. I will ask unmute.
Ammu?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah.
Yes, we
Congratulations.
can hear you.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, yes.
Ammu,
Loud and
bolo.
clear.
Congratulations, Delshad. Very much.
Thank
I
you.
did not know that my little niece, so small niece, from day one, she would grow to such an extent, and she would, because she was interested in the community, she was interested in the topic, she has researched it so well. Thank you, Delshad, and thank you very much for spreading the message. And making people aware of it. Thank you, Delshad. All the best to you. God bless you too. God bless.
Thank you, Ammu.
God bless.
Thank you so much, Roshan ma'am. Thank you so much for
Oh,
your presence is blessing
yeah.
for us.
Her
Now,
dad has
Smita ma'am,
also,
yes.
her dad had also has sent that same message.
My dad, I'm sure he would have slept off.
Yeah.
He's like
Yes.
5 a.m. to 9 p.m. kind of a guy. So
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
He listened up at 10 o'clock.
Thank you,
Once again,
Ammu.
thank you so much, everyone. Smita ma'am, would you like to conclude the meet? A few words and you can close the meet.
Well, thank you so much, Toastmaster Dilshad. Everybody has already spoken and said the same words. And yes, empathy towards another human being, treating another human being born in this world as another human being. That's all it actually takes to treat somebody. Instead of considering another person as a man, a woman, or looking into their gender or their sexuality, let's all come together, let's foster love, and let's create a happy environment. After all, I think that is the reason why we are born as humans, aren't we? So let's all actually become one, is what I got from Toastmaster Dilshad's presentation today. And that is what I also firmly believe and would love for all of my the entire audience who's listening, not only here present in the Zoom meeting, but also so many of us who will be watching us on YouTube today, tomorrow, and for years to come, who would look into this meet. Thank you so much for joining in, and we hope to see you all in our next meeting, where we'll also again be bringing for you another guest with another lovely topic to speak about that would have an impact on the community. So thank you so much for joining in, everyone. Good day, good night, and happiness to everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
See you next week. Same time, same meeting link.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for having me, Toastmaster Faisal. Thank you, Toastmaster Smita. Thank you so much.
We can
mute karo.